Joining me now is Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Democrat from California. She was at the unveiling of the Progressive Agenda today and signed it. And E.J. Dionne of the Washington Post. He moderated President Obama's discussion on poverty today. Thank you both for being here.
Glad to be with you, Reverend Al.
Good to be with you.
Congresswoman, don't progressives have a broad, united view on a lot of goals, despite the kind of disagreement we saw today on trade?
Progressives have had for many, many years a very clear agenda that really, I must say, is a mainstream American agenda. When we fight for a living wage, when we see people who are living below the poverty line, who are working, living below the poverty line, that's just downright wrong. Progressives want not only an increase in the minimum wage, but a living wage. Also, when you look at education, when you look at making education affordable for everyone, from preschool all the way through either community college or college. We have so many gaps there and inequities that we need to begin to close these gaps. Progressives will always do for that. Also, tax reform. We have a very unfair tax system, Reverend Al, and it's about time we insist that corporations and CEOs pay their fair share. And I have to say, I come from a great area, Oakland and Berkeley, California, where the progressive agenda has always been an agenda that Democrats have embraced, and I'm very pleased to see the national movement now, led by a great, bold mayor, Mayor de Blasio, kick this off here in Washington, D.C. with many, many progressive organizations.
Now, I think what was impressive is that all of us may not agree on how to get there. I think I said in my statement, we may not agree on the play, but we all agree on the goal line and the touchdown. And I think that's how you really begin turning around this whole question of economic and income inequality.
Absolutely. And we have to remember also we've got to include racial justice in this. When you look at poverty rates in the African American community, 27%, in the Latino community, 23%, yet the national average is about 9%. And so we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want people who are living below the poverty line to really be able to find pathways out of poverty so that they can, too, get into the middle class. And I have to say, Al, I was very proud of the president today because I was a member of the drafting committee for the platform of the Democratic Party. And for the first time, we wrote in there that it is a priority of the Democratic Party to eliminate poverty. And so we're beginning to see more Democrats talking about not only preserving and fighting for the middle class, but also those who are really working hard just to get into the middle class.
Now, E.J., at your event today, the president, who I think has been the most progressive in my lifetime, he talked about how the poor are vilified in the conservative media. Listen to this.
If you watch Fox News on a regular basis, it is a constant menu. They will find, like, folks who make me mad. I don't know where they find them, right? They're all like, I don't want to work. I just want a free Obama phone or whatever.
I mean, how do these false depictions of the poor undercut serious discussions we need to have, E.J.?
Well, I think what they do is they harden and solidify opinion on a particular side of the debate. But I think there is a lot of room to fight for programs that would lift up the poor. One of the striking things about this event the president spoke at today is that it was organized by a group of Catholics and a group of evangelicals, white evangelicals mostly, with a whole lot of other participants. And, you know, the whole point was if you take the gospel seriously, you cannot ignore the fact that the poor, Jesus talks about the poor all over the Gospels.
Right.
And that what the president put on the table today were very practical things, ranging from building infrastructure to universal pre-K to child care, some of the very things in the program you signed today. And one of the things that strikes me is there's a kind of intellectual effervescence right now among progressives that we haven't seen really since the battering of the economic mess back in 2009. There's this proposed set of proposals out of the Roosevelt Institute. I was involved in a similar set of proposals that came out of the Center for American Progress a few months ago. We're all moving to say, we can't talk about inequality or poverty. We need to put some specific things on the table, and over the long run, let the voters decide, is this a better program than something that looks an awful lot like pure laissez-faire?
Congresswoman, we talked about the progressive agenda, but on the right, it's a much different story. For instance, all the big-name 2016 Republicans are opposed to raising federal minimum wage. That may work in a GOP primary, but how will it affect working-class voters in the general election?
Well, it may or may not work in a primary. We saw several states with a heavy Republican population in the last election pass ballot measures to raise the minimum wage. And so I think when we raise the minimum wage and move toward a living wage, the majority of the American people will want to know why their candidates are not standing for that. Republicans, independents, they need a raise. They need a living wage. And it's not only Democrats who need this, but also, Reverend Al, going back to pathways out of poverty, I introduced legislation to cut poverty in half in 10 years. Support from the faith community. We know exactly how to do this. We've seen it work, and we have all of the tools and the measures in place that we need to vote on. But, of course, we can't get the Republican Speaker to bring this bill to the floor. We have a lot of work to do, but I tell you, I'm so proud of young people who are really beginning to put the street heat, as I call it, on to make sure elected officials are accountable to an agenda that's an American agenda that raises people out of poverty and ensures that we begin to close the racial and economic gap in terms of what we see taking place in our country.
You know, E.J., Politico reported on the ongoing pressure progressives are putting on Hillary Clinton, calling today's event, quote, the latest step in the Democrats' primary within the primary, liberals' efforts to figure out how to push Hillary Clinton to the left. I mean, how much concern is there on the left? And was Hillary Clinton listening today?
Well, you know, Hillary Clinton's positions right now are quite progressive on a whole series of issues. People have noted, for example, what she said on immigration. And I think for now, the pressure should be, for example, on the minimum wage, not only, as Congresswoman suggested, have those Republican states voted for it, but a very large number of rank-and-file Republicans want to raise the minimum wage. I was struck by what Mayor de Blasio said about rewarding work. A lot of the Republicans who want to talk about poor people and demonize them as if they don't want to work. In fact, they do want to work, but they want work to pay for them. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is a unifying issue. It trumps all these efforts to demonize the poor, because what they want is jobs that they can raise their families on.
Well, I think it has been a highlight day from your session with the president to the progressive agenda to what Senator Warren did to the president, sitting down right now with Democratic leaders of the Senate. Again, a common agenda for working people to have livable wages. We can debate specifics on how we get there, but I think we've established the goal line for America today. Congresswoman Lee and E.J. Dionne, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.